The problem of Galamsey is one that is convoluted. You cannot solve Galamsey with simple approaches. You have to think about the problem in full circle. Gold as an industry contributes to about 50% of all exports or more. And every year, we are generating close to $10 billion to $12 billion from gold exports altogether. Galamsey and illegal mining is contributing a notional value of close to $6 billion. And so this is not an issue that is as simple as politicians seem to make it, especially when they are in opposition. It altogether comes and contributes to the GDP of our country. But can we put growth ahead of the health of our nation? This is the catch-22 situation we find ourselves in as a country. First, we need to understand the problem of Galamsey. Galamsey is not merely the indigenous people not having jobs and going into the forests and into the rivers to mine gold. That is the superficial aspect of the whole situation. The situation is multi-layered, and in the deepest part of the layers is multinationals, is cartels, is the mafias, which include politicians, which include foreign companies, which include foreign nationals and foreign financiers who are deep into the layers, forming the substratum or the substrate of the whole mafioso. And so if we want to get rid of this situation, we need to go deep down and get rid of what is forming the substrate, what is making it work, what is holding the whole industry together. But you cannot do that unless you are self-sufficient, unless you have total control over your minerals, unless you have total and absolute control over the natural resources of the country, and of course, unless you have absolute records of what you have as a nation, and you can effectively trace where each mineral is and who is mining what and at what time. This is the beginning of the solution to Galamsey. The next level is to think of alternative livelihood for the perpetrators or those who are indulged or involved in Galamsey. Because if you don't have alternative source of livelihood for them, they don't have any option but to go back to the fields, to go back to the forest, to go back into the rivers and the streams to wash the gold that they find or the sand they collect with cyanide, mercury, and arsenic. That is their only source of livelihood. And if you see the risk they take to get just a few grams of gold, you would understand that this is not what they want to do, but they do not have any option. And so you have to think in full circle and holistically how to create bifurcated plants that are able to effectively and sustainably mine gold and train people in the gold industry without hurting the environment. Now, if we want to do this, we first have to clear all our waters. And this is going to cost us billions of US dollars. But is it an investment worth it? In recent years, we have seen different governments try to approach the situation in different ways. They have used what they call task forces. They have used the military. They have used the police. But it will interest you to know that some of these task forces or members of the task forces, some of these military men and policemen are part of the whole cabal. We have had the privilege and at our own expense in our lives traveled to every single community in Ghana, save Boko, Garu Timpani, and Bia West. These are the only communities that we didn't touch. And so we really understand the situation. We don't think there is anybody in this country that understands the situation better than we do, because we have gone to the grounds and assessed what the issue really is. Task forces don't solve Galamsey. Military don't solve Galamsey. The police don't solve Galamsey. And the reason is because all these institutions and organizations are they are compromised. They are compromised, and they are compromised because some of them don't even have proper entitlements. Some of them don't have proper salaries. Some of them don't have security for their own future. And so if you put them in charge of what is making other people billions of dollars, it is just a matter of time and they will finesse into the whole cabal. And so that doesn't solve the situation or the problem. What really solves the problem is becoming self-sufficient and gaining control over the natural resources and the mineral. That's the first step. And that's the only way you can uproot the substratum, which is the foreign influence and the foreign sponsors, the foreign financiers that are holding the grounds and holding the top and putting everything together. That's the only way you can uproot malicious politicians who are taking advantage of the position they have and the power they have to destroy our lands and create wealth for themselves and for their children. Well, politics is part and parcel of our lives. And as humans, as primates, we have the tendency of relinquishing our power to a few group of people to take care of us, if I may say. And that process is what we call politics. And so we can't do without politics. However, the over-politicization of serious issues does a lot of damage to our country. It does a lot of damage to our society and our ability to bind together and have a national conscience. Politics destroy that very fiber that brings us together as a nation and have a collective goal to uproot certain problems that befall us. And so the issue of Galamsey cannot be fought with, the mere change of government. It has to be fought with understanding, first the understanding of the situation, and then the political will to bring to curb the situation. So they work together. You first need to understand the situation, you need to have the expertise, and you need to have the political will to curb the problem. Undoubtedly, there is the aspect of the traditional rulership, being part of the whole solution to Galamsey, because they are the custodians of the land on which the gold and the minerals reside. And so you cannot take them out of the process. However, we need to understand that some of these traditional rulers are compromised. And they are not compromised only because they are greedy. Some of them are compromised because they don't have any alternative sources of income and they don't have any way to better the lives of their communities. And so once you begin to sit on the table with them and you show them a clear pathway to bringing down the problem, and then creating an alternative source of income for them and their people, I think that is a good way of curbing the problem in terms of dealing with the traditional leaders. Well, it will interest you to know that in Ghana, only Ghanaians by law are entitled to small-scale mining. However, these Ghanaians have Chinese behind them. They are just fronts for Chinese. They don't have the financial power to mine. They don't have the ability to purchase heavy duty equipment for mining. And so you still have the monies going to foreign nationals. The other side of the issue is that there is not a single Ghanaian owned large scale mining company. Every large scale mining company is owned by a foreign entity. And some of these foreign entities are sponsored by our creditors. So this is why I say that until we become self-sufficient, until we have control of this nation, we cannot fight Galamsey. We cannot fight illegal mining. We cannot fight problems of major mining companies mining for 20 years, 15 years, and leaving the remnants for people within the community to fight over. This is not the Ghana Nkrumah fought for. This is not the Ghana Kutu Echampong fought for. Ghana, as I always say, has more gold per square meter at surface level than any nation on this planet. And so why do we allow other nationals to invade our land and take what belongs to us and destroy our environment and kill our people with poison? Why do we allow this to happen? On the issue of transparency of regulatory bodies like the Minerals Commission, I feel they are not fully transparent to Ghanaians. And I say that on authority because I have personally been to the Minerals Commission. I have been there and I've proposed to them some solutions that we want to bring on board to curb the problem. It's been almost 3 months since I wrote my letter to them, and they've not responded. Almost 3 months. Now, at the time we were writing the Galamsey manifesto, the Minerals Commission had removed certain vital information, especially about concessions they have given out from their website. This is not an act in good faith. This is not a sign of transparency. It's rather the opposite. And so if you have regulatory bodies acting in such ways and manner, you lose confidence in the situation. And that's why we are saying that we need leaders who have the expertise, the understanding of the matter, and the political will to go into the root cause of the situation. Well, a lot of Ghanaians have given examples of cities like Johannesburg and compared them to Obuasi. They've compared them to Manso. It will interest you to know that in Ghana, the more minerals a community have, the poorer they are. I have traveled to every corner in this country, and I know this as a fact. And it looks as if it's by design. It looks as if our leaders have deliberately kept these very, very rich communities under the darkness. The people themselves don't know what they have. They don't understand what they are sitting on. They don't know what they deserve. And politicians have taken advantage of them. Manso Nkwanta, Manso Edubia, all the Mansos are very, very rich communities in terms of mineral deposits. However, they are some of the poorest places I have seen, probably the poorest in the Ashanti region. Obuase has been a gold mining community since I was born. I've heard Obuase, I've seen Obuase in social studies books all over. But when you visit Obuase and you compare Obuase to Johannesburg, there's a big difference. And it tells you that a chunk of the money that is made from mining by the multinationals is not coming to us as a people. We don't have good arrangements with these mining companies. And what we do is that after they have mined and left huge pits for us, they give it to our people to continue to feed on. And our governments agree to this nonsense. This is what we want to stop. I agree with Napoleon the Emperor, who believed that economies survived on three things: agriculture, which he describes as the soul and the spirit of the economy; industry, which he says that is the happiness and the joy of the people; and foreign trade, which he describes as surplus and the people could care less. However, if you are blessed with mineral resources that are valuable, it is a bonus to you as a nation. And so you put agriculture first, and you can neatly insert mining below agriculture. And then you have industry, then you have foreign trade, which is the surplus. This is what we have as a nation. And it is important that government invests heavily in all these areas. But in terms of investing in these areas, government should also collaborate with Ghanaians who are in the private sector to also support the industry. We have talked about the need to increase government revenue, and one of the ways is to increase the public share in assets sitting in the nation. These are non-tax revenues that we can generate as a country. And of course, mining contributes immensely to our GDP growth. But that is not to say that we should sacrifice the health of the environment and the future of our children with growth. So I say that it is a situation that is convoluted, and you have to tackle it with great expertise, knowledge, understanding, and political will. The issue of water bodies getting destroyed and contaminated is very, very sad to think about. But being sad and worried does not provide a solution. We have done our research, and we know that about 21 billion cubic feet of water in our country has been contaminated and destroyed. And most of these water bodies have been contaminated with heavy metals and compounds, which include cyanide, mercury, and arsenic. But the beauty of the situation is that you can turn this around for the benefit of the nation. We are still in research trying to find ways to convert cyanide into nitrogen components, which include urea and ammonium sulfate, which will serve as fertilizer to the farmers in mining communities. We have also proposed the investment in plants that can extract the metals from the water bodies, and this is going to cost us $500 million to probably $2 billion upwards if we want to clean all the 21 billion cubic feet of water. The danger is that if we don't do this, the poison is leaching into our lands, and we are going to lose our dear cocoa. We are already underperforming. We are doing 50% of what we used to do. The Cocoa Board failed to meet the 330,000 tons that they need for certain loans here and there. And so this is not a problem we have to play with. This is a national security issue. This is an urgent situation that we need to look at critically. If we are getting $2.5 billion to $3 billion of revenue from cocoa alone, we should not allow illegal mining to destroy the farmlands that are supplying us with our dear cocoa. The other side of the issue is that farmers or cocoa farmers have weighed the two, and they have realized that there is more money in mining than in cultivating cocoa. And so, like all human beings, they take the path of least resistance and they use the shortest route possible to their destination. And of course, they will go for the mining. And so, if you have a country where cocoa farmers are not well taken care of, this is what will happen. Nobody can be more patriotic than their own survival. Ghana as a country has the poorest cocoa farmers in the world. In fact, we are doing about $1 a day per cocoa farmer in Ghana, which is way below the industry average. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and the time is now that we stood up as a country and begin to fight. But do we have the money? Yes, we do. No, we don't. We don't because the money is not sitting down waiting for us to use it for all the things I have spoken about. But we do because if we are able to close loopholes for corruption, we can save $6 billion a year, minimum. That is the money to solve this problem. We need to understand that if we lose the top layer of our soil due to illegal mining activities, it can take us myriads of years, hundreds of years to recover just the top layer. And this is a fact. This is a scientific study. To all Ghanaians, Galamsey is not a problem for one person to solve. It is our problem as a nation. I will encourage us to fight together. We need to have a national conscience. We need to understand that Ghana is the only country we have. If we change our skins, we are still Ghanaians. If we change our domiciles, we are still Ghanaians. If we change our citizenships, we are still Ghanaians. Whatever we do, Ghana is in our blood, and we need to do whatever it takes to safeguard this nation and for the generations yet unborn.